Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the NRG your 5K Showdown from Chicago. I'm Clark, my co-host Devin O'Donnell, better known as Duke, and we are here today to talk about more Pioneer action, and we have got some sick magic to show you. But before we get into that, let's quickly show something that the players are winning for today that we don't talk enough about here, I think, which is the Inkling custom token for winning. And, along with getting our invite to our $35,000 Player of the Year event with the Showdown, you also win some of these events. So we're seeing a lot of them. We got Matthew Hoey with the GOAT. We got Nikachu did the Merfolk. I love Dom. He's a mana counter, focusing on the colors. May French, she made food. She likes ice cream so much. We saw Theo Jung get the energy counter. There's so many more. I think Samurai, from Sean Gallagher, that was used earlier in our feature match area. So there's a lot of great ones here. And winning today lets you get one of those that we give out at the event. So very awesome to see these going on, along with, the invite to the year and all the prize pool going on, as today is a 5K.
Yeah, Mason, I'm gonna put you on the spot as I do always when we show this slide. Well, what token would you want to be?
That's a really tough one. I think one of the things energy was pretty high on my list, and then Theo got it. I've always wanted to be an energy token. I think Thopter's pretty good. That's one that's not used off. And I'd like, the Ninja token would be kind of cool with the Kaito, because I do like that card.
Oh yeah.
So I like a cat though for the modern cards. So
yeah, I kind of want to just do maybe a companion, or if companion was already done, maybe the adventure. I don't know if we have both of those.
Adventure is good. Honestly, now you got me thinking. Here's what I want to do: cards drawn for turn.
Ooh.
And then I can double as a storm counter
for props.
For profs. I didn't memory. Yeah. Maybe like a action per turn counter. That'd be kind of cool. And then you can use me for storm or Phoenix. Kind of doing whatever. But we got two great players here this round. Lukas Parson on your right, someone you've seen do very well at our events. Hasn't quite converted. He has a couple good top 8s, but it hasn't got enough to be high up on the leaderboard. But Benjamin Ungar, on the other hand, someone who's been doing very well and converted to our end of the year championship last year, and is now playing Is It Phoenix today as the Huntsman's Redemption here from Lukas. And if you played against Lukas, this is his deck in Pioneer. This is all he plays really when it comes to the format, and has some innovative takes on it.
Yeah, and this, you talk about innovative takes, and this deck list from Lukas is certainly the definition of innovative. So you see Huntsman's Redemption on your screen, where the enter the battlefield, you get a 3/3 out of it, and then the second chapter allows you to sacrifice a creature to go search for it. You search your library for a creature or basic land, put it into your hand. So that incentivizes, tutoring usually incentivizes some interesting 1-ups. So Lukas is sporting 1 Fear of Missing Out, a Scavenging Ooze, a Voldaren Thrillseeker, and a Sentinel of the Nameless City. As far as additional sweet cards, besides the Huntsman Redemptions, there are 2 copies of Thought Not Seer in Lukas's deck list, which usually you associate with Eldrazi, but Mutavault, Karplusan Forest kind of gives you enough colorless sources to be able to cast that.
I think we're seeing a wombo here, Devin. We floated a mana in our main phase in response to the Huntsman trigger. Now we're going to go search our deck. Could this be Thought Not Seer?
Oh,
it's definitely going to be something, but...
Yeah, we got a mana floating off of the elf, and we have the Raminap Ruins for the colorless. We're actually going to go for Thrillseeker. And this is interesting because Thrillseeker in combination with the Huntsman's Redemption is kind of a pretty powerful 1-2 punch, where Thrillseeker, has a backup ability where you can basically give your creature 2 counters and the ability to fling. The Huntsman's Redemption Chapter 3 gives a creature +2/+2. So you can imagine, we already had the Thought Not Seer, so this is perfect. But next turn, Lukas is going to give 2 creatures +2/+2, presumably the Thought Not Seer and the Beast token. And if, say, then Lukas goes, okay, Thrillseeker counters on Thought Not Seer, that's an 8/8. You go attack for 8, fling it at you. That's 16 damage from the Thought Not Seer itself, +5 from the Beast. That's threatening 21 damage next turn.
Yep, and we saw Lukas there take the Lightning Axe, and we also saw Benjamin Ungar with a very good poker face, acting as if this is a normal thing that happens to him. He's like, yep, Thought Not Seer, saw it coming. And now, what is he going to do? Because, he needs to find, like you just mentioned, removal spells quickly. The Thrillseeker's face up. We have this Picklock Prank so that we can free the Fae and get an Artist Talent rummage off of, but we're going to need it. And Devin, it looks like the adventure token has happened as Benjamin's there. So you need to think about what you want to do in that regard. Torch the Tower is picked up. That's not going to actually answer what's going on. Lightning
Oh,
Axe will
huge
though.
pickup. Yeah, massive pickup. Benjamin finding the Lightning Axe. So now, say, for example, if Lucas goes to target the two creatures with the Huntsman's Redemption, Benjamin might actually fire off the Lightning Axe main phase, given that it is face up. But yeah, so I think what might want to happen, it's interesting, right? Because Benjamin says, Lucas goes chapter 3, target both creatures with the +2/+2. Lucas then, if he lets it resolve, would not be able to kill the Thought-Knots here with Lightning Axe because then it would be a 6/6. So maybe you go, okay, Lightning Axe the Thought-Knots here, let the Beast get pumped. That's a 5/5, and then the Thrill Seeker would make it a 7/7. 7 times 2 is 14, so that would put Ben to 3, but not quite lethal.
Yep, and I love this from Ben. He's just waiting. Because he's like, well, maybe Lucas messes up, but Lucas obviously just was like, okay, I'm going to target these two things. You get to do first here. And of note, we're going to get the rummage here from Benjamin, and then the draw a card from the Thought Not Seer. It has a drawback, and that's something you see a lot these days. But you do get to draw a card, and then we're going to draw from the talent from the thing there. And now this is a big old beast. And like you mentioned, with the Valerian Thrill Seeker, that's a lot. And I really like the fear of missing out on this deck because Lucas's deck is weirdly kind of good at enabling Delirium. Yep. Now, it might not matter too much this game, but it kind of just gives him a way to, like, in the late game, he starts to flood out a little bit. He's got a way to redraw. He's got a way to push a lot of damage. And he picked up Scavenging Ooze this turn. So he doesn't have the 4th mana to fling, which is pretty unfortunate. And he doesn't have another green to Scavenging Ooze anything too important. So an awkward spot, but we could see something like Fear of Missing Out. The real question is, Devin, will he leave up the Mutavault in order to push 2 damage, or will he leave up the Forest in order to have potentially Scavenging Ooze, or is he just going to play the Verdale Thrill Seeker here and just push 7 damage?
Yeah, I kind of don't hate this. I mean, you want to get the creature outside of Fiery Impulse range anyways. So even though you don't have the extra mana to fling the 7/7 here, which would have been huge for Lucas, if there was a land there, you put Ben to 3 with 1 damage face up from the Thrill Seeker and the Raminaf Ruins in play. That would have been a much better sequence here for Lucas. But I don't hate just dealing 5. Dealing 7, putting Ben, a little bit lower, and then having a 5/5 in play, which means that now if Ben has something like a Torch the Tower or a Fiery Impulse, that now can't kill the Beast token.
Yep. And, this is also something that's pretty important here, I think, to think about. Benjamin, very accomplished player, done very well. Like we mentioned, played our end of the year series last year. We see him do a lot of these things very well. But for a lot of people, this is going to be like their first time playing against this deck in a long time, let alone all the things Lucas has going on, right? Meanwhile, Lucas is playing against Phoenix, a matchup he surely played hundreds of times since he only plays this deck. And that's going to give him a real advantage along with all these weird cards. And I think you're seeing Benjamin having to kind of be like, okay, I need to think a little extra here because of how weird things are.
Yep. As we see Phoenix going to the graveyard, that is going to be spell number 2. And then we'll see, Benjamin has a second, another spell here. One interesting thing to point out is Benjamin's deck list does contain Temporal Trespass. As you see, I believe that might have been the card that was shipped to the bottom of the sleight of hand. And that is a card that a lot of Phoenix players have been cutting from their deck list. But Benjamin deciding today, it's sort of like the 5th Delve spell, which, with Artist Talent, you do fuel your graveyard a lot more. So kind of makes sense. But, interesting to see that a lot of people have opted not to play it. And Benjamin said, you know what, I think it's still good enough.
Yeah, that card is so game winning. I can totally understand. When I used to play Phoenix a lot, pre-Artist Talent, that it plus Galvanic Iteration was such a game winning play that nothing else could have won. That, it makes sense, and it is such a powerful card. It's not like he has some silly card in his deck, right? It's a game warping effect. As we are going to see the Phoenix come back here, ready to block. Benjamin's like, okay, I've kind of got my engine going. I've got Treasure Cruise in hand. I just need to stay alive. But Lucas drew Torch the Tower, Devin.
It's pretty good. That's going to be able to clear the Phoenix. So you could go Torch the Phoenix, animate the Mutavault, hit for 3. But yeah, without that 5/5 token anymore, it's going to be it's going to be a little bit more difficult for, Lucas to be able to present enough damage. And we see just the Thrill Seeker coming across, perhaps wants to deploy the Scavenging Ooze, and that is going to be the play. So, it's just really awkward. Lucas's mana is really awkward here, right? Where you have the Mutavault and the Raminap Ruins, so he doesn't have enough green to go after the graveyard to prevent, future Delve spells like Cruise. And yeah, Ben's like, well, I already got 7 in the graveyard, so might as well just fire it off.
Yeah. heads up play there, just sort of playing around it, and you're gonna get rid of the temporal trespass because he knows this is gonna happen. And from Benjamin's perspective, I'm sorry, from Lucas's perspective, Benjamin obviously is moving through his deck a lot, but has had kind of the cards he needs at the right point, and it's just sort of getting worse and worse from here. And Lucas's deck has a lot of real power to it, but needs to kind of, get that momentum early. And Benjamin's done a good job of, taking a couple real hits, but sort of stymieing the aggression.
Yeah, Torch the Tower still in the hand here for Ben. Does need to deploy a third spell to be able to get that Phoenix back into play, and is going to do so with the Consider. And picked up a Brazen Barber. So that's, interesting because, Lucas's deck can present larger threats, as we saw, the 5/5 or the potential Thought Knots here that could have been a 6/6 that one turn. Stuff like that doesn't die to Lightning Axe, but, can nice catch-all answer with the Brazen Barber. And these Phoenixes coming back, it's going to put Lucas on a really, really big clock. And Benjamin kind of at a healthy 11, doesn't really have a lot to worry about here.
Yep, and you saw it there on Lucas's face. He's like, "Yep, I'm in kind of a bad spot." And then, yep, he's gonna pack it up. Knows he can't really keep up with what's going on there. He's sort of, had a chance there for a little while, could maybe push a lot of damage, but Benjamin just too solidly in the driver's seat there. And let's check out these sideboards and see what Lucas can do to maybe help things out in the post-board games. We have 2 Pick Your Poison, 2 Unlicensed Hearse, then a pile of one-ofs. 1 Rending Volley, 1 Torch the Tower, 1 Backnather, 1 Clothis, an Eldrazi Obligator, a Tranquil Frillback, an Arlen, the Pax Hope, Hazoret the Fervent, another Thought Knot Seer, Sky Sovereign, and our good companion, Giganta. Devin, what do you like here, in your opinion, from Lucas's thing? I'm sure you're very well versed in this configuration of the deck.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I just need to go look at my sideboard guide real quick. Definitely wants to bring in the 2 Pick Your Poisons and the 2 Hearses. Those seem, as far as what they're there for. Pick Your Poison is even a lot better against this version because before it could potentially kill a Shredder, but sometimes they could sort of body block it with a Picklock Prankster. But now they have another really powerful enchantment, and it's going to get the talent most of the time. So Pick Your Poison. Hearse for sure. You could also maybe go Volley used to be good against Phoenix, but now that they're moving away from Shredder, I think you don't want to do that anymore. The Frillback and the Clothis to hit the graveyard could be pretty good. And then I think the Hazoret's kind of nice because a lot of all Phoenix's removal is damaged based, so it is kind of hard for them to get that off the battlefield via normal means. So Pick Your Poisons, Hearses, Clothis, Frillback, Hazoret, I think is where I would want to be.
Nice. Well, let's check out Benjamin Ungar's sideboard real quick and see what he might be doing. We have 2 Abrade, 2 Annul, 2 Chandra's Defeat, 2 Third Path, Iconoclast, 2 Mystical Dispute. There's the Legislators hanging out on the sideboard, 2 over there, an Anger, a Brazen Bar, and a Negate. What do you like here?
So, from Benjamin's side of things, wants to be able to kill the elves early, so it can do that with, obviously has the impulses and the axes in the main deck, but, maybe wants to go towards the Abrades because these green-red decks usually have a lot of artifacts like Chariot and Smuggler's Copter. Past that, I mean, Anger of the Gods seems interesting because it cleans up the elves and the 3/3 token from the Huntsman's Redemption. You could consider a null where you saw Redemption, you expect Chariot, you expect Copter. I don't hate that. Past that, maybe you could consider bringing in Shredder if you expect Lucas to board out a lot of the removal that would kill Shredder because maybe he's preparing for Talon and not Shredder. So I think those are the cards that I would consider looking at from Ben's side.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, our players are finishing shuffling up. So really quickly, let's show the players where we're going to be starting off next year. Throw that slide up there. February 1st and 2nd, we're going to be back here in Chicagoland. Then March, we're going to Madison, Wisconsin on the 15th and the 16th. Back to Chicagoland, May 10th and 11th. And then in Indianapolis, June 28th and 29th. So come on out. This will be the new start of the 2025 year, meaning you could be on our leaderboard and make it to our end of the year $35,000 PTQ Invitational. So many spots and slots open for that. Let's get back to our feature match area as we're going to announce those formats very soon, and we'll have to see exactly what's going on there. But in this game, we're going to have to see, can Lucas, take the play and win this game number 2 and force a game 3 here. This is a matchup Lucas has to be used to playing. And I imagine, he has to feel at least okay-ish about. Obviously, he plays his deck a lot like we talked about before. I can't imagine him just running his face into Phoenix all the time if he hates the matchup.
Right. And you see some conscious sideboard choices too, right?
Mhm.
We talked about the Huntsman's Redemption being a way to have access to your kind of more unique and situational one-ofs more frequently, and you see a lot of those in the sideboard, right? The Hazaret, good in some spots when you have 4 mana later in
Mhm.
the game when you're empty-handed, not the best all the time. Same with Clothis, Frillback, so a lot of choices for Lucas to kind of help shore up the matchup. And just in a general sense, if you can go like, this is kind of the start that we expect out of Gruul vehicles, is the Elf into Stormseeker starts. Those can be really difficult for Phoenix if you don't have the removal spell for the turn one elf. And I see an elf and a Stormseeker, but I don't think there's any lands in it. Or there's one land for Lucas.
Mm.
And a hearse too. You probably got to keep that one. Oh
Yep.
yeah, love it.
And here we go. Llanowar Elf on the play with a Stomping Ground. Reckless Stormseeker also in hand. One of my favorite cards from that set. Really powerful thing that's going to put a bunch of damage in here. And let's see, does Benjamin have it? He does. Now it's Lightning Axe, and he doesn't have a Phoenix. So that's the one good thing going on for Lucas here. It's like, all right, I lost my Elf, but at least it was a 2-for-1. And Lucas didn't draw the land for turn, has another Llanowar Elf. Can Benjamin find the spot removal? Looks like we're going to play a Pathway into a Sleight of Hand.
Yeah, and I mean, if Lucas can find lands, his hand is pretty good. He's got a Hearse, he's got a Stormseeker, a lot of good cards. Pick your poison to answer a talent down the road. So, a lot of good options here for Lucas. Benjamin notably did not find a second removal spell. So, yeah, Lucas breathes a sigh of relief, able to untap with that elf. And let's see if we can maybe land Stormseeker here. It looks like no. So, probably going to go towards Hearse instead, which still not that bad.
Yeah, and you see Benjamin, gonna respond, but doesn't have any mana ups and nothing Lucas needs to be worried about. Did pick up a Fiery Impulse though, so not no matter what, but most likely Lucas, is gonna be on at maximum 2 mana next turn. I have to see how Benjamin wants to play it. I like this from Lucas here. Just gonna main phase activate the Unlicensed Hearse, play around a Treasure Cruise or something like that. Lucas noticed a bunch of cards in Benjamin's hand, but unsure what those cards could be if they're not kill spells, so decides to make it Treasure Cruise not an option. We are going to see Benjamin immediately shock in and then go Fiery Impulse, Elf down with Free the Fae. And if Lucas doesn't draw a land this turn, things are going to be pretty rough despite having the powerful sideboard card in play. That looks like a pass of the turn, and we're going to Free the Fae. Okay, a whiff, and a Phoenix hits the graveyard, so Unlicensed Hearse can clean up that Phoenix.
Yeah, see, the thing is, we mentioned last turn where the Hearse can sort of keep Ben off of Cruise for a turn, and now there's 6 cards in the graveyard. Ben having 3 lands in place still can deploy the Cruise, so you could even see Ben go Cantrip into Cruise, and then maybe go from there. But yeah, I mean, the Hearse is keeping Ben off of getting a Phoenix into place to be able to find a threat. We did see the third path Iconoclast come in as well. Wasn't sure if that was going to come in from the board, but Benjamin decided wants to have additional threats. Kind of makes sense, especially if you expect your opponent to have a lot of graveyard hate. So something to look forward to when your opponent has something like a Hearse in play.
Yep. I like this in Benjamin. We're going to start with a Sleight of Hand. He's taking a second. I really respect this because it's land and a Free the Fae. So it's really tempting just to take free, but he's like, actually, I'm going to resolve this Treasure Cruise. I need to think about, do I need this land? Great play there from Benjamin. Seems like a small thing, but can make the difference as Treasure Cruise goes. And he's going to draw 3 cards. Did end up finding another land, but now gets to play Ledger Shredder if he wants to, or potentially play this Picklock Prankster, depending on if he wants to play around the one of Pick of the Poison that there's no way he can nose there.
Yeah, Lucas did, I
Okay.
think, find a land. We found a Hash Up Oasis, so we still have some choices here.
So Lucas uses the Oasis and loses a life. And if you're Benjamin, you've got to know something's up, right? There's like some red spell that Lucas wants to play because you just wouldn't lose the life for no reason here. Now, of note, Devin, into the Flood Maw in Benjamin's hand. That means he can get rid of this Unlicensed Hearse if he wants to.
Yeah, you could maybe see, like, if Benjamin has, say, like a Phoenix in hand and a way to discard it, you could say, okay, well, I'm going to bounce your Hearse, then discard the Phoenix, then get it back kind of all in one big turn. Or even say end phase, bounce the Phoenix, like end phase, bounce the Phoenix, and then cast Free the Fae, untap, maybe hit a Phoenix, maybe, keep going from there. Yeah, Ben, and looks like we're going for Free the Fae, finding potentially another Free the Fae.
it's interesting here because Benjamin knows Lucas's. I mean, he doesn't know Lucas's deck, but he knows there's a lot of good threes, right?
Right.
And that
Yep.
lightning axe is really good at potentially stopping something like that. But what Benjamin's done here is he's let it resolve, and then now he gets to play land from hand and treasure cruise before Lucas gets a chance to activate that unlicensed her. So Lucas wanting to play around the Arclight Phoenix is hitting the graveyard means he's not going to get the full activation here. He's only going to get one card. And this hearse is pretty annoying. It's also just big, Devin. It's eventually going to get in. Like this turn, Lucas could very easily play something like, this Stormseeker, crew the hearse, and then attack for 6, thanks to the Stormseeker's trigger.
Put Ben down to 10. Maybe a little bit worried about, potentially maybe a little bit worried about Benjamin then finding a Phoenix, especially because Lucas hasn't given Ben a Lightning Axe target in a couple of turns. So, maybe aware of the possibility. Oh, and Ben finds a Braid off the top. So that can go, you can maybe go a Braid, kill the hearse. Then I think I saw a Talent as well. So you can maybe go a Braid, kill the hearse, Talent, then discard the Phoenix. We're going to go for Talent first. So I
think I like
this
this
makes sense.
Talent.
You can just go a Braid, discard something that's not the Phoenix, and then cantrip, discard the Phoenix after.
Yep. Yeah, and I get what you're saying too about the Lightning Axe in the last turn, because Benjamin didn't take the axe, right? So that might be Lucas's way of thinking like, oh, there is an axe waiting for me. We're going to see the hearse in response. It's going to get the cards that it could, which is going to be the card from the artist talent. So even though Benjamin's resolved 2 treasure cruises, it'll make the third one a little harder. And now you see Benjamin picked up a third path iconoclast. He might just deploy that card here, since he can't bring back the Phoenixes this turn.
Yeah, I think Ben's hand right now is Phoenix, Third Path Iconoclast, Picklock, Prankster, and Into the Floodmaw. So weighing the decision of, so he's cast one spell that turn. If he casts the Into the Floodmaw to bounce the Stormseeker, then discard the Phoenix and rip a cantrip, that could get back the Phoenix. But, deciding to go with the more mana-efficient play of just holding up the Free the Fae, can end of turn that, discard the Phoenix, and then is way more likely to hit 3 spells next turn.
Yep, and we're going to see Into the Floodmaw. Probably going to end up, it's kind of interesting. You can bounce the token and it just dies, but you can also bounce the Reckless Stormseeker and before you move to combat, and then he's going to sacrifice the beast, and then it's a very interesting position of like, okay, do you how do you use your mana, right? Trying to continue tying that up. So Benjamin's saying, okay, now that you've targeted the beast, I'm going to Into the Floodmaw it, discard this Phoenix, and draw a new card.
Yeah, and on 13 life, Benjamin can't really afford to take a big hit of 6 there. Ideally, Ben would probably want to use his mana efficiently and cast the Free the Fae, but can't really afford to take that extra 4 damage because, Lucas is to his credit, was a little bit mana screwed for a couple of turns, but has done a pretty good job of making sure he's kind of keeping in this game. The hearse did a lot of good work early on to make sure that Benjamin wasn't able to develop a Phoenix early, and now that he's hitting his land drops, deploying some more threats, the Huntsman's Redemption could go and get something like maybe, I don't know, a Hazoret, could get a Frillback, could get a Clothis. A lot of options here for the Huntsman's as well.
Yep. We're going to see Free the Fae here. It's going to trigger our Third Path Iconoclast, get a Servo. We haven't seen that card before. It's very much just Young Pyromancer, but for non-creature spells, and make Servo. So if you know that card, we're going to be making a bunch of 1/1s, and Treasure Cruise in hand. Another Treasure Cruise drawn here with the Free the Fae. And when you have a card like Iconoclast, that's what you want to see, just this constant chaining of cards. And now Benjamin has a bunch of different plays. It looks like he's going to go with the Lightning Axe. Could have even, got a Torch to the Tower there and paid the bargain to kill it. But Restless Stormseeker, has done a great job of keeping Lucas in this game and is one of the most important cards. But let's see. Looks like Benjamin maybe realizing he doesn't quite have Treasure Cruise.
Right. This is awkward for Ben, where he has exactly 7 cards in the graveyard, but one of them is a Phoenix. So he doesn't really want to exile the Phoenix by, paying 1 mana for the cruise, which he could do, but then the Phoenix is gone. So instead, just choosing to deploy a Picklock Prankster and then, save the decision for next turn. But this is going to open the door for Lucas to go fetch that Tranquil Frillback. Now, he does have to sacrifice the Stormseeker to do it. So that
Mhm.
is a bit of an awkward, if he had a land or extra token or maybe some smaller creature to sacrifice, that he would rather do that. So interesting to see if Lucas will decide to go get that frill back this turn.
Yep. It's going to be pretty interesting. And it's so awkward because he also has this torch the tower that he kind of wants to use on the iconoclast
Yep.
because Lucas, has played a lot of pro tours, heads up player. He's going to notice that Benjamin sort of like stopped and was like awkward when he looked at his graveyard. Lucas knows the treasure cruise coming. He's like, okay, I'm going to get sort of drowned in cards. I want to get rid of this Phoenix. I don't want to get treasure cruised. Can I use the Tranquil Throwback to that, or do I need to use my Torch to the Tower to fight over the Iconoclast? What's the best way for me to do this? And I think he's going with what you're saying there. Just I'm going to hit the graveyard and hope things work out.
Yeah, because there's really no way. I mean, it. Ooh, we're going for
Clothis.
Clothis
Okay.
instead. Okay, so not choosing to go for the frill back, and this is a clean turn for Lucas. You get to go Clothis and kill the third path Iconoclast. But I mean, it's tough to say whether that's going to be good enough, given that Ben is going to resolve another draw 3 next turn.
Mhm.
So good turn for Lucas, but it's tough to say if that's going to be enough to kind of make sure he can get out from under this mess, because there's a lot of problems that he has to face right now.
Yeah, I almost wonder if we're gonna if Benjamin's supposed to do something like maybe just play the pick lock pranksters, like resolve his draw 3 or whatever, get his cards out of the way, and then he drew a cantrip, so that kind of changes things a little bit. But had he just drawn a land, of just been like, I'm gonna put creatures in play and start pressuring,
Yeah.
And we're gonna see Treasure Cruise happen here, delving 6, paying 2 mana. We're gonna get the Artist Talent to trigger if Benjamin wants it.
Yeah, I'm not sure he actually wants to discard any of these cards. Maybe the extra cruise, but with the talent in play and axe in hand, you're kind of not that far away from the extra cruise. Already 3 cards in the graveyard. Well, ideally 2 after doesn't want to exile the Phoenix.
Discards the Lightning Axe, though, decides
Yep.
to take a more aggressive posture this turn. I think this might be him being like, hey, I'm likely to see a bunch of Phoenixes and stuff. And if I just bin everything and move through my deck quickly, I can probably present a near lethal attack this turn. And he does want to get the game over with, because Clothis can be annoying if he doesn't have pressure here. And we're seeing just this Artist Talent go crazy. Opt, getting played, Artist Talent discarding the Phoenix here, Legislator to the pickup. And I think Benjamin can go Treasure Cruise again, even if it is 2 mana.
Mhm.
It looks like, we have an opt first. Okay, that's going to make it so that is free. And we'll get another look at Phoenixes.
Artist talent is such a watching these games play out with artist talent and just seeing how quickly it's able to churn through your deck and make sure you can find just all these Phoenixes, make sure your graveyard's always stocked for cruise. That card is really, really powerful.
Yep, I totally agree. When I saw that card, it's just like, wait, this is like the first time we've ever had something like this, right? Like,
Yeah.
just rummage for free, no extra cost. That's really strong.
On
And the
every
idea to put
spell.
it, yeah, just it changing the Phoenix deck fully, I not fully appreciate like how much it's just become a talent deck. But to me, it's like, all right, Treasure Cruise, it was like maybe tenable, but I don't know. Artist Talent really just making that card over the moon strong. As the Huntsman Redemption pops, and that's probably going to do it for Lucas. As he's going to get his Clothis trigger, he's going to gain a little life, but there's just so much going on and not that many cards in hand.
Yeah, so this is going to go Ben to we're going to swap life totals a little bit. Ben's going to fall to 9. Lucas is going to go up to 11. Now, can Lucas survive the turn? I can't quite get a good look at the hand. I think it's a land, an elf, and one other
Pick your poison.
card. Pick your poison. Okay, so that could maybe clear the talent.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's a
I thought it was
chariot.
my
Okay.
bad. My bad. All right. Well, that's a
So a couple
strong
of
card.
blockers here for the ground, although most of Benjamin's, attack forces in the air with the 2 Phoenixes and the Picklock Prankster.
Yeah, we might see something just like a braid here, clear up like the cat token or whatever and just get the talent trigger and then just try to find, our last Phoenix. As Benjamin's like, okay, what's left in my deck? I lost 1 Phoenix, but that's it. Alrighty then. Well, I can pretty easily get to the last one. And he does have a profs as well, right? So like as soon as he finds that too, the game just ends. And I guess he's double checking to make sure, like, hey, do I have profs?
Did I board a Phoenix?
Yeah. And honestly, it's a thing that does come up, right? Like sometimes you play against decks with a ton of graveyard hate and you just trim 1 Phoenix or something like that, or a delve spell. it does occur. And, Lukas showed you a Scavenging Ooze game 1, and probably got a lot more graveyard hate. So wouldn't be the most unreasonable thing I've ever seen. But I think this casting of the Brazen Bar end of turn, it's going to signify it a little bit here. And I think, we're just going to bounce Clothis to the hand.
Yeah, you could also consider bouncing the cat token so that Lukas wouldn't have the ability to crew the chariot on his turn. Like Benjamin would basically need an extra removal spell. Well, that's not necessarily true, because if you go to kill one of the cat
There's the props.
tokens, as the props anyways, Lukas is off it.
Yeah, I think it's a spot where the battlefield just doesn't matter because he can always just upgrade the chariot. And so it's just a matter of like, okay, if I fizzle, let's get rid of Clothis so I don't lose 2 life. We're going to get an interview here with Benjamin as we see him getting up to come talk to us. But congratulations to him. Him and Lukas are both having good runs today. This is round 4 of 7 of our Swiss. So still a lot of Magic left to be played. Both these players are very much live for top 8. So you might see more of them in the future. But, very impressive showing there from the Artist Talent deck.
Absolutely. I mean, it is crazy to me how much different the Phoenix deck looks with Artist Talent and how much quicker it is able to churn through its deck. For the longest time, Phoenix and Pioneer was a deck that really nobody thought there was really no spots that you could change. And it was like, okay, well, maybe sometimes there's like 1 or 2 flex spots, and really Artist Talent just changes the entire way the deck functions and plays in terms of just how quickly it's able to get the cruises online, and even in post-board games against Graveyard Hate. The one-shot Graveyard Hate not as good, because you can just re-up it so fast.
Yep. Well, let's talk to Benjamin here in our interview area. Benjamin, congratulations on being undefeated so far. How you doing?
Good. Doing great. Fun weekend. Came down with, I think we had 8 of us from Team Level Up here this weekend, and yesterday we had a teammate make the finals. That was Jake Cohen, Fletcher Johnson, top 8 yesterday. So we're all just kind of having a blast down here.
That's so awesome. So glad to hear it. So what made you want to pick Phoenix for this weekend?
It's just a deck that I have a lot of history with. I remember unironically registering Chart a Course in that deck not too long ago. I'm a known Pieces of the Puzzle enthusiast. Artist Talent is just kind of an insane Magic card, and I saw as soon as it got printed, I was like, I need to put this in Phoenix because it's just going to let the deck churn like butter, and that's exactly what happened in that match, and I think that's kind of just a reflection of what that card does for the archetype.
Yeah, it's, I never really thought as soon as the card got spoiled, I thought that there was a chance that maybe people play like 1 or 2 copies. But now as we've seen the Phoenix deck evolve, Ledger Shredder, which we thought was a sacred cow before, just completely gone from the main deck. Talk to me about how specifically Artist Talent, does it make the Phoenix deck feel, because you played a lot of Phoenix, does it make it feel any different? Does it play out any different than Phoenix decks of the past?
Yeah, you definitely aren't as conservative with a lot of your cards. Like before, when it was like Rakdos mid-range was the meta, and like Sheoldred was seeing a lot of play, like you used to kind of like have to sequence your cantrips like very carefully, and you had to like kind of hold them for specific spots. But Artist Talent just lets you see your entire deck, and like a big problem before was like flooding out if your cantrips kind of whiffed. But Artist Talent just giving you that extra draw to filter through lands or to filter through blank removal spells just allows you to kind of use all of your mana every turn and kind of find what you need.
Awesome. Great. Well, you mentioned you've been having a lot of fun. You mentioned, your teammates Level Up there put someone in the finals yesterday, having a great weekend. Are you like, you're 4-0 right now? You're a little excited. You might be able to sneak into our championship yet again this year at the end, right? The showdown, is it on your mind, or are you taking it one game at a time?
For sure. I haven't come to a lot of the NRGs this year. I've just been busy with work and kind of outside of Magic stuff. But I really, I had such a blast at Champs last year. It's such a well-run event, and these energies are always so much fun. And so I like reached out to our team, and I was like, I don't have a modern deck, but if somebody could, spot me like the energy deck, I have Phoenix for Pioneer, and I would love to try to, make a run at it today. So yeah, it worked out, and I can't express how much love and support there has been from everybody on our team. So it's been nice.
That's great to hear. We love to hear it. Well, hey, we're going to let you go that we can go hang out with your friends and have a good, fun rest of your day, because we've got more Magic to show the people. But thank you for taking some time to talk to us.
Of course. Appreciate it, guys.
See you later, Ben. All right. Well, that was great. I love how excited he is to play Magic. Every time I talk to him in the booth, he's just like, yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. It's been a great time. Always, interviews are after the win, so it helps a little. But when I see him around, he's always happy. So I love to see it. speaking of loving to see it, we have our backup match in game 3. So let's head on down to that right now and see how everyone's doing. As Justin Brickman on your right is playing Rakdos midrange, and Pierre Smith is back at 3-0, which implies to me that maybe Garrett conceded to him, earlier.
We thought that was a draw. Interesting.
Yeah, we thought it was a draw in round 1, but I think Garrett, nice guy, was like, hey, you know what? I'm in the leaderboard race, but I'm locked for champ.
Actually, no, it might just be a graphic. It might be a graphic update because I'm looking at Pierre's record right now, and it does show 2-0-1.
Well, there goes that narrative, but still very good weekend so far. And we saw this deck in round 1 here on the left Celestina Company. I'm excited to play the Dimir mid-range deck we saw earlier, better known as Ninjas. I think that deck's sweet, but the Celestina Company, that's the deck that really speaks to me, Devin. Just good creatures, a little bit of mana cheat, and just playing good, clean Magic and just sort of lining up. That's the deck I kind of like. And it's been doing really well on Magic Online as well, as we saw Team Scrap Heap take the RCDC by storm.
Yes, exactly. Both of these players playing some, sort of interesting decks from the regional championship. The Celestia Company deck was really put on the map. And like we saw Pierre Smith earlier playing the Celestia Company deck, and it is a deck that people have played in the past, but really got some, interesting new additions. And then the deck that Justin Brickman is playing. So this is the Rakdos mid-range, or if, Mason wants to call it, demons. Although there aren't as many demons in this particular version. Sometimes you see the Unstoppable Slasher and Bloodletter of Aklazot's combo. Those are absent from this list. We're just playing the 4 Archfiends and the 4 Unholy Annexes. So this is more, I guess if you would call it like more of the traditional Rakdos mid-range deck that's just utilizing Archfiend and Annex as the different sort of top end. But Unholy Annex, what a messed up card. That card is crazy.
Yeah, it's been taking a standard by storm. We saw it put up 2 people into the finals of Worlds just last weekend. As we are going to see Blood Tithe Harvester played off the Mutavault thanks to Urborg there. So before chat gets freaky with it. And, and we have Enduring Innocence here being played out. And that is one of the key cards in these kind of matchups. A lot of a good presence early can trade off with these things and then provides a ton of cards as the game goes on. And Brickman's going to need something like Torch the Tower if he wants to answer this quickly.
Yeah, there are 2 copies of Torch the Towers in Brickman's main deck, so perhaps those very likely stayed in because he wants to be able to kill all of these small creatures here for Pierre. But worth noting that Pierre start very, very slow. No 1-drop, no 2-drop, and then Enduring Innocence on turn 3, which leads me to believe the hand is very, very Collected Company heavy. Either that or just a bunch of 3s. So we'll have to see how Pierre decides to develop next turn. But yeah, Brickman offering up the Mutavault for trade of the Enduring Innocence, and Pierre says, you know what, no, I'd rather trade for a Harvester.
Yep. And I like that too from Pierre's side, right? Like the Innocence is going to give you you have another one, so you're going to really pop off. But if Brickman's willing to trade the Mutavault, especially in game 3 here, his deck kind of needs some amount of the mana, then that's going to put him in a position where he clearly has a lot of lands in hand, right? If he's doing this. So you're going to want to be like, okay, I'm going to trade with the thing that is the most damage and provide the most time. Enduring Innocence number 2 here was played, and that's going to be the thing that triggers off the land off, as it is only once per turn there. But you're seeing Pierre Smith's deck do its thing. And Brickman here using Blood in order to get into the swamp and then ends up fatal pushing. A little awkward there.
Yeah, these Enduring Innocences are so good. Now, Brickman does have the advantage of just having a bunch of stuff in the battlefield. This is half of Pierre's life total here. But if Pierre has any sort of follow-up next turn, that's going to draw him 2 cards. And you can imagine, if you're drawing an extra 2 cards a turn against the Rakdos mid-range deck, you would imagine that's a good way to kind of fight through all of their 1-for-1 spot removal. Now,
Enduring Innocence number 3.
You want to kill that one, I'm going to get some more cards. Worth noting, Pierre does not have Collected Company available, so cannot go towards that. Maybe something like a Skyclave Apparition to kill the Blood Tithe Harvester. No, looks like we're just going to be a pass. So maybe holding up something like an Interrupter could potentially be, or something like maybe a Werefox Bodyguard.
Yep, and one thing to note here too, you mentioned Brickman's deck is Rakdos midrange, or Rakdos Demons, as we've been calling it, because it does have the demon package. But right now he's playing it like an aggressive deck, right? Because the draw he's had, which is one of the strengths of this deck, is he can play these beatdown games with these Mutavaults. We saw players like Shota pick this up early on, or sorry, I should say in the middle of the life of the Rakdos mid-range deck, just playing Mutavault. And Brickman's deck gets to continue doing that because you want Mutavault for your demon count. But now, the Enduring Innocence stuff, it's slowing the game down, and Brickman is in a very awkward position.
Right. You can probably imagine that if Brickman had the choice, he would really not want to play a longer game against Pierre's deck, given the presence of Enduring Innocence and Collected Company to just kind of have these endless amount of 2-for-1s, and it's basically impossible for him to get the Enduring Innocences off the battlefield once they've died. So Brickman is in a spot where he needs to close out this game before he gives Pierre a couple of extra turns with those Enduring Innocences, and that might be a little difficult. I think life totals might not be updated. I believe Pierre should have taken 7 last turn. I think he should be at 7 right now, but it is time shifted, so we may not be able to get that updated. But keep that in mind. Pierre, I believe, should be at 7, which means that this annex, maybe a little bit of chip damage, could help Brickman cross the finish line.
And we see the Annex come down. You can also, one of the nice things about this Unholy Annex and Mutavault is, for a mana, you're going to get that Drain for 2, which is pretty nice. And what Brickman's doing here with the dice is he's representing like, hey, this room is locked right now. So what's going on? Well, our card viewer are not going to be very helpful with rooms. We're going to need to update our technology and rotate that. Yeah, we tried. But Unholy Annex, that Drain is very strong here. I imagine we're going to see Brickman just activate the Mutavault just for that because it's such a powerful effect.
Yeah, it really wants to, the additional damage that's coming in from the Unholy Annex. We get Pierre's giving it a good old read there just to make sure we understand what it does. Very powerful card where it's, not only a card that allows the Rakdos decks to draw extra cards every turn, but on top of that, it also provides chip shot damage, life gain, and an additional 6/6 body. So just the card kind of just does everything.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about this is Pierre had the Aven Interrupter, chose not to interrupt the Annex, and I think that might be due to the fact that if he did, that would give Brickman the ability to cast the Demon half next turn for just 2 mana, and then also unlock it again. So I wonder if that was some sort of consideration.
Yeah, I think Pierre was basically just like, well, I'm going to have to fight through this, but, the Demon's going to brick me right now, and I'd rather just Brickman him. So I tried. I just, it was a lot going on there. We got Thalia coming down. It's a draw 3 Ancestral. Artist Talent who?
2 mana for your 2/1 first strike Thalia and 3 more cards. It's pretty good.
And obviously it's time shift. We can't fix it. Is this a May? Can you miss it?
No.
That's so funny. You could deck.
Yeah, and I wonder, this might be Brickman just thinking about responding to this, maybe if there's a Torch the Tower or something like that.
I do think it is a response because if you have like a 2-mana kill spell, you're not going to be able to cast it. But I was just curious if you could actually deck yourself with Enduring Innocence because we saw Pierre Smith in round 1, just got like one of these on the board, but he got exiled pretty quickly. So he never really like did the thing with it, but they just don't go away.
This is the standard Beanstalk problem. Never play the 3rd Beanstalk, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to get our 3 cards. And now Thalia's in play. So 1 mana removals available to us, but 2 mana spells are not. We have our 4th land, and we're going to get in with the Innocence because it's a kind of a free attack here. Looks like Aven Interrupter is going to hold back, maybe wanting to stop some of these Mutavaults. Remember, Enduring Innocence does have lifelink, so this trade would be very good for Pierre, getting his life total up and trading off with the 3/2. Heads up play.
Right. And we talked about how Pierre wants this to go to the late game because he has so much card advantage with these Enduring Innocences, and Brickman wants to get the game over with as quick as possible. The chip shot damage from the Annex, especially if there's a second one, that could certainly help swing the race in Brickman's favor because it doesn't really matter how many cards you're drawing if your life total is not being able to, if you can't pad the life total, which I guess he can a little bit with the Enduring Innocence, but maybe the second Annex could help Brickman kind of outpace that.
We'll have to see how this plays out here. Looks like another land for Brickman. Have some brick draws, but
stop.
Never. I gotta wonder why is the Mutavault getting tapped over? There we go. All right, so we're gonna tack the Takanuma. I was like, come on, yeah, it's a swamp. We are gonna see Archfiend of the Dross come on
Okay.
down.
No blood tokens for the Blood Tithe Harvester. So not be able to use that as a removal spell. Because maybe Brickman would want to go say Blood Tithe Harvester to remove the Enduring Innocence, and then that could be we got a Coco in response. That's gonna
Even Interrupter
see
could be massive here, Devin.
Yeah, there's always this weird tension, right? Where the Collected Company deck has both Skyclave Apparition and Aven Interrupter. And it's always, okay, do I want to play it in response to the spell, or do I want to wait till the creature comes into play? And you see, Pierre hitting a Werefox Bodyguard maybe would have been a little bit more beneficial to wait, but it's a really tough question to answer sometimes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I imagine Pierre probably went down a little bit on these creatures just because of all the removal Brickman has, so they're probably a little less reliable. This might have also been a situation where if he hit Archon of Emeria, he locked Brickman out and then has something like a Skyclave in hand, right? Because he has so many cards in hand. He's got to have something that can answer the dross besides the Wandering Emperor we know about.
Yeah, so Brickman actually had a Heartless Act to remove the Bodyguard to get back the Blood Tithe Harvester, and that's also very important because not only is it going to trigger the Archfiend of the Dross to have Pierre lose 2 life, that Blood Tithe Harvester coming back gives the Blood token, which means now the Blood Tithe Harvester can kill something next turn. That's another 2 damage from the Archfiend. With all of these chip shots really adding up here for Justin.
Yep, Werefox Bodyguard's going to take down Archfiend of the Dross. Now, that Blood Tithe Harvester can get it back, like you just talked about, but Pierre's going to draw 3 cards first. And, he's got a lot of cards, but Brickman did a great job of putting that pressure on early, identifying, hey, I'm flooding out. I need to apply the pressure. And now you see Pierre doing the same, attacking back for 6, needs to get this game over with. And the Enduring...
Yeah, you could imagine if the life total, if Pierre was maybe a little bit higher, somewhere in the 9 to 10 range, this game would be a lot. You'd be like, how could Pierre ever lose this game? But given the fact that he took so much damage early, added up by again the annexes and the Archfiend, all of those chip shots really add up here. And Justin maybe has, if he could say, has a removal spell for the Werefox Bodyguard, get the Archfiend back, sack the Harvester, kill a creature, puts Pierre to 3. Archfiend or the Annex trigger puts him to 1. Like you could really see Brickman having the ability. And then the other thing you have to consider is what happens if Justin just attacks with everything, right? Because Pierre has to do some sort of blocking, and if he does some sort of blocking with the Archfiend in play, that could also be like you go sack the Harvester, kill the Bodyguard, and then just attack with both Mutavaults.
Mm-hmm. So we're gonna see a passing here. The Wandering Emperor is up, so something to keep in mind. A little extra life available. Could also stack the Werefox Bodyguard to gain 2 life.
True. Which would make sense if it's going to die anyways. Although maybe holding up a Collected Company and debating on whether or not he would rather. We got a Raider.
Guardian of Fate's going to phase it out.
Okay, so. You're gonna have to educate me on phasing. If you phase out a Bodyguard, does Brickman get back the Archfiend or no?
No, it will come back when they're together.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Phasing is so weird.
Yes.
Yeah, Brickman asking the same question. I'm pretty sure it still stays. Yeah, because it basically just like the wording on phasing is it's treat it as if it's not in play, but it never left the battlefield. It's some weird in between.
Yeah, I think they clarified it too when they reintroduced phasing as a mechanic they'll use every now and again, because there was a while where it was just kind of off the table design wise. And then I want to say around 2018, 2019, they started doing it again, and they clarified we know it's weird. Just kind of pretend it has hexproof essentially, right? It's just it's not really there is a good way to think about it. It can't die to rafts, it can't be targeted. So that's sort of what's going on in that regard.
But yeah, that's a huge play here for Pierre because that's going to protect the Bodyguard, make sure that Brickman can't get back the Archfiend, putting it die just to represent that it's phased. But yeah, Brickman still has the Annex in play, so can maybe go pay 5 mana to unlock the other room, which he is going to do. That's going to make a 6/6. So that's going to put Pierre down to 3. But without access to that Archfiend, isn't really able to, attack with those Mutavaults to get in a little bit more damage. Because I think that's what Brickman's plan was this turn, was to be able to get the Archfiend back, hit with both Mutavaults, put Pierre in an awkward spot, make him decide if he wants to block or not. But now, just wants to make the 6/6 and maybe have a good attack next turn. Perhaps can find another removal spell the following turn for something like the Bodyguard.
Yeah. Looks like a straightening up of the mana. It looks like there's maybe a little small mistapping here. Nothing's really happened to change, so it's all good. And it looks like Brickman's going to go to his end step and, drain Pierre for 2 and draw a card. And this is one of the things that, I think often goes underappreciated by players. That the One Ring kind of taught people is, I think that elf is summoning sick, but I'm not exactly sure. Anyways, time shifted. Who cares? Unholy Annex gives you enough cards, right? You can have a lot of cards, like the Endurance, the Endurings are here, excuse me. But if you don't have the mana to use them, right, you're going to not be able to capitalize on the full way. And for some early turns there, Pierre had way more cards than Brickman, but they were deploying a similar amount of cards, and Brickman cards were stronger pound for pound, right? He was putting in real pressure. So while Pierre is starting to pull away with it now, it's one of those situations that's very awkward where it's he has more cards, and if the game lasts 4 more turns, he's a huge, huge favorite. But, there's this weird window where he's starting to equalize with Brickman here as he's starting to be able to use his mana, which is why Elf is so good for this deck. It helps get your things out early, helps you have more mana. Very important to keep in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest question here is, can Pierre gain enough life and stay above a certain life total to make sure that he can't die to this Annex? Because that is really what is keeping Brickman in this game. Brickman, if you think about it, over the past, the Annex has been in play for 4 or 5 turns, so we've triggered it 4 or 5 times. That's basically putting Pierre from 10 to 2. And if Brickman didn't have that, then it would be a much different game. So, can Pierre gain enough life? There is 1 copy of Innocence left in the deck, presumably that all 4 stayed in. So maybe if he can find that to get another lifelink body, he can start attacking with that.
I was going to say, if he had used the Kellen to make maps too, we could have maybe grown the Innocence we have in play.
Pump the lifelinker, yeah, okay.
Yeah, do it the old-fashioned way, Draw 3.
By the way, draw 3.
Yeah, Skyclave does not get this demon token. Only the Werefox can, though. So we have one of those.
For people who are just tuning in, they might think that Pierre is looking through his deck. No, that's just his hand.
Yeah, yeah. Just has a massive hand going on here. Honestly, it's got to be close to decking. He's drawn 3 7 or 8 times now. He's got to have a low deck size.
That's a very good point. And with Brickman at 16, it's, I mean, I guess Pierre can probably get to a spot where if you've removed enough of the creatures, you can probably get to assemble a 2-turn lethal clock. And it looks like we might be going towards that right now.
Yeah. And it looks like an attack here for 10. Looks like Brickman's deciding if he wants to animate Mutavault, maybe get in there for a little trade skipoo. Can actually pop the blood first. This could be a good sign for a Fatal Push. Yeah, there's a Fatal Push in hand, and that's going to get the Werefox Bodyguard. Ooh. That's going to get the Archfiend, the Dross back. Brickman's going to get to block these creatures in combat if Pierre doesn't have something. Now, I think he has an Aven Interrupter. All right, he does. He's not just dead yet.
Yeah, so interrupt the Fatal Push. But Brickman still can cast the Fatal Push on his next turn, although won't have Revolt to kill the Bodyguard.
Yeah, he'll have to figure out some way to trigger Revolt. And with the 2 Aven Interrupters, if he doesn't block the Aven Interrupter now, it's going to cost 5 mana. The Interrupter stack plus the Thalia. Yeah. So it's going to be very difficult for Brickman to actually use the Fatal Push effectively on the next turn. So essentially countering it for, the shortness here.
Well, yeah, there's 3 total Interrupters in play, right? There's 2 attacking.
There's 3. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So
the Fatal Push costs 7.
Yeah. So I mean, I wonder if Brickman's supposed to just block the Innocence here to stop the stupid life gain that's been keeping Pierre alive this whole time. From Brickman's perspective, it's awkward because he wants to be able to cast the Fatal Push most likely, but I think it's just kind of gone, homie.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a tough spot. I mean, like you said, you could block the innocence. I mean, blocking the innocence kind of only makes sense if you think you're going to get 2 more combat steps out of Pierre. I
Oh, a
think.
Gonjo.
Oh, Ganju to kill the 6/6. That's brutal. So Pierre's going to go up to 4. Presumably, though, if Pierre doesn't have a way to interact with another annex on the stack, maybe that could be a lethal top deck here for Brickman.
I think it is. Yeah. You just play the Annex, animate the Mutavaults, and we have the Wandering Emperor in hand for Pierre, but we don't have the mana because our own Thalia is, limiting that. So Brickman has a lot of live draws and is showing, just how powerful Unholy Annex is and just how finicky sometimes this Celestia Company deck can be.
Well, now that I think about it, actually, I don't think Annex itself would be lethal because Pierre can sacrifice the bodyguard to go up to 6.
Oh, sure. But if he does that, but it'll be his turn. Yeah. So Brickman won't be able to attack immediately. So it would force Brickman to have a kill spell. If he does, then Archfiend the Dross could be lethal.
There's the Fatal Push that's on exile, but good luck casting that one for 7 mana. That one probably not going to be cast this turn.
I think Pierre has about 22 cards left in deck. I did some counting.
Sounds about right.
So that's not enough to really get to decking. I think if we had 10 cards, 12 cards, Brickman could try to just play defense. But here we are attacking with both Mutavaults.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think what this attack might be is, then kill this before damage.
Yeah, and do we have the 4th Aven Interrupter? Now, you can sack the bodyguard, but you're still going to get the 4 life here from the Dross triggers killing these creatures and the Annex. That's going to be lethal. Oh, okay, it's the 3rd Aven Interrupter. And Brickman's going to concede the hand. Wow, what a crazy game for Pierre there. Had to lose a life to the Pain Land. Every point counted. Got in with those Enduring Innocences, and congratulations. What a game there. Brickman still very much alive, falling to 3-1, but, has 3 more rounds to go. Speaking of 3 more rounds to go, we're just about finished with this round. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back in just a minute. See you soon.